never know if you say 3, 2, 1 before that.
I say before.
All right, fellas, all bar managers out there viewing this video. Again, welcome to BARB 2021 season managers interview. Today is Anthony King hosting Mr. Jeffrey Moore of the Pottsylvania Creepers, one of the original members of the 2003 league year. As you guys know, he's good when he gets in the playoffs. He's been in the playoffs 3 times, World Series twice, and won it one of those times. So you got to give him a lot of credit because he's one of the only 3 owners, not named Andrew or Chris, has won a title there. So we got to take our hats off to the guy there. That's impressive there.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe all of the owners who've won titles were original owners.
Yeah.
Except
for one.
Who?
Yeah.
Except for Matt.
Matt and
say Eric won one. Right? Eric won 1 or 2. I've won 1. Matt won 1. I think that's the 3, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
I think.
Except one original owner, right? Has it?
Yeah, Matt would have been the non-original owner. That would have he's a second-year guy.
No, Luis is referring to the only original owner that's never won a championship.
Oh, yeah, well that's
which is Hatfield.
That's a dig at Scott, yeah. So, I mean, okay. If we really want to talk about original owners who never won a championship, there's actually from that 2003 draft, there's a lot.
There you go. Well, that's true.
There's a few owners who didn't last that long. There's some ones who just never made it to the mountain. I mean, let's be fair, it took me 10 years to win my first title. Literally, I think it was the 10th BARB 2013, I believe, was my only title. If I am correct in saying that.
You still got something under your belt that none of us here got.
You know what? It was a long climb. It was a long way coming. I mean, because I had been close twice. I mean, and again, correct me if I'm wrong about this. We'd have to probably go back into the deep annals of BARB history for this one, but I believe every playoff series I've ever been in has gone the maximum.
Let me see. I can actually check that.
Yeah, I believe every playoff series. I know the first year I was out on Game 5 because Anthony bleeping Reyes. I started Anthony Reyes over. I should have started someone else, but I started Anthony Reyes because he had the hot hand, and that bit me in the butt. The year I lost it, I believe I went out on Game 7 in the series. Maybe it was Game 6. That one might be the one. But I know that my championship game went Game 7 because we actually, instead of having the home owner being the only one who was live managing, we both live managed Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the year my shutdown bullpen was a shutdown bullpen.
Yeah, I've seen how the bullpens matter a lot in the playoffs, man.
Yeah,
and so
they're middling at best during the year, but then you get in a playoff series, if you can shorten that game.
Yeah, that's crazy. So as you've seen on the other sessions, we kind of go through the big questions. In your case, you kept yourself busy, like when you get in the playoffs, you go all the way.
Right.
You stay busy. So
no halfway.
For everybody out there, you're gonna get to hear the answers to Jeff's for the first time. Neither Anthony or I know his answers, so be surprised. So we'll kick it off. Good with you, Jeff?
Yeah.
All right. So first question was, if not your team, who do you see winning the 2021 BARB title?
All right. This is going to be kind of a weird pick, and I don't see my team winning, first of all. That's just not. Let's get that out of the way here. My team is going to be bottom of the pack probably again, but depending on injuries, we'll see. You never know. But I'm going to go with the Evil Empire themselves, Frostbite freaking Falls. I still think that team is good enough. I still think he's good enough. Andrew is one of those savvy enough owners that if you put him in contention by the trade deadline, he's going to make the right move. He's always had that history of he makes 1 or 2 moves if he's like close to contention or in contention, and all of a sudden those moves just pay off gangbusters. It's his luck. He does the work for it, but I have to give it to Andrew. He's probably going to try and sneak in for another title run this year, even though he by all rights shouldn't.
I think the draft results kind of influence your answer there?
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's with BARB, it's such a small league that the draft has a huge impact. I've seen teams go from you think they're going to be a hot dumpster fire pre-draft to they make a couple of trades pre-draft, they move around some pieces, and all of a sudden they're a completely different team on the backside of the draft.
You're talking about Fresno gatekeepers, aren't you?
I'm talking about a lot of teams, man.
Moves. They did their moves right there.
Yeah, I mean,
made everybody proud.
There's a lot of teams you can look at that have done that over the years. It's just like you look at if you go back and really do the history work and look at the pre-draft rosters half the years, and then you look at teams post-draft after cuts. All of a sudden, there's a few teams that all of a sudden they went from bloated salaries and old guys who might not do anything and a couple of diamonds in the rough to all of a sudden those diamonds in the rough are surrounded with weapons. And all of a sudden a rotation comes out of nothing and bada bing, bada boom. And that's where, a well-leveraged trade mid-season pays off. And that's also where I'll say this too. If you think you're going to contend, make a trade early. I've seen that one pay off more often than not. If you wait till the deadline, you're not getting as much value. And generally, you tend to overpay a little more because any team that's not contending at the deadline knows the value of what they're sending away, and it's pretty much doubled. Nice. But injuries also play into that one a lot.
Yeah, I think we touched on that on the prior video.
Yeah.
So Andrew, targets on you now from the Jeff. All the BARB Jedi are gonna be aiming for you there. Preventing the Empire to rise again. Cool, man. All right. So second question was, who do you see as the season's dark horse?
Man, there's like 3 or 4 teams right now that are dark horses. I mean, again, this is hugely injury dependent, but Kaufman's team is scarier than I think people think. I don't know. That might just be my evaluation of his roster, not looking at the numbers. But
he did get a lot of votes for that.
Yeah, but I think Kaufman has a man, brother. I think your roster's scarier than people think, and I think again it's one of those 1 or 2 well leveraged trades, and all of a sudden that division flips.
Yeah,
and the divisions are pretty interesting this year to say the least.
Yeah, I would say it's a big improvement from last year's. It's really evened out. I mean, it's all luck of the draw type of thing, how the divisions end up, but this year, and I think also the way managers handle their teams this year.
And I'll say this too about the division selection. I don't think the division selection matters that much unless you get like dumpster fire division and super strong division, because I think most of the teams in a head-to-head series are going to pretty well slug it out. I mean, there's 3 or 4 obvious teams that are going to rise to the top, and they're always going to be in contention. Then there's teams you look at and go, I mean, look at my team. You don't know what to make of that, because are we going to play defense? God, yes. Are we going to hit? Depending on the spot. Are we going to pitch? God, no. My pitching depth has been devastated by injuries. So my top 3 starters are all my top 3 starters by salary and pretty much by numbers are all benched until at least June. And one of them for the season. So
a big piece there.
Hashtag should have cut him. I really was debating cutting Paxton. And I'm like, no, he'll be fine. And then Tommy John, and I'm like, son of a bitch. There was $6 million I could have leveraged.
That's Brownsville will probably send a shout out to you. He's been through that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Good answer, man. So third and final question was, who do you see underperforming or not meeting expectations this season?
Okay, this is a answer that deserves a little bit of qualification, because this is a team that always comes in with high expectations, and that's sorry, Chris, I see your team kind of falling apart a little bit this season, and I think it's going to be through no fault of construction. I think it's going to be, I see a few of those pieces getting worn out and just underperforming. But, it's one of those things where you can only compete at a high level for so long until you have to rebuild a little bit and reload. Though Chris does a great job of that, I think this is going to be the year where he finally gets humbled a little. At least I'm hoping. That's the hope, right?
So there you have it, Chris. You could maybe go 2 seasons without playoff appearances.
One hopes. One can hope.
There you go. Yeah, man, appreciate it. I'll pass it on to Anthony for the Commissioner's Corner and his 2 questions.
All right, so Luis and I came up with 2 questions for everybody. By now, I'm sure you've seen some of the interviews, so you might know the questions. First one: what do you see as your team's biggest strength and biggest weakness?
As I was saying already, defense. We're gonna play, especially the outfield. You and I were talking about this earlier. My team can field no worse than if I field the optimal outfield defensively on my team, not offensively, mind you, but optimal outfield defensively. Will have no less than a very good defender at every position and an excellent center fielder. So I think we could play. And my infield defense ain't too shabby either, featuring 2 Gold Glovers from last season. So my team can play defense. But as I mentioned, my biggest weakness is pitching. I am very thin, especially where what has traditionally been my strength, my bullpen, and that was something I knew it was going to be a problem coming into the season. I didn't make a ton of moves to address it because I had some other holes that needed filling, as we all saw in my middle infield draft. Traditionally I draft more pitching, traditionally I draft arms. I think I've got a lot of strong young arms. The problem is a lot of them are still young. I've got the Adrian Morahones of the world. I've got Quantrill. I got a bunch of those kind of guys that are maybe not quite there yet, and their major league stats are probably a little inflated to what they're going to come back down to earth, I think, for what they are. I mean, I've got Alex Reyes. I've got a couple other young guys, Genesis Cabrera. Odd, I just named 2 Cardinals there, but Diaz is still reliable at the back end of my bullpen, but at the end of the day, losing Yates for the year was a huge blow. Losing Giles was a huge blow, even though Giles wasn't factoring into the decision as much. But Yates was a huge blow because he was. I was actually debating between him and Diaz as the closer. That debate got solved via Tommy John, but there's a lot of guys that I was going to be relying on. So my bullpen situation got a lot worse post draft, unfortunately for me, or actually right up to the draft. So yeah, I'm probably gonna. And my starting situation's a hot dumpster fire too. I mean, Hector Rondon is my 3 starter right now. So I only put him in the middle of the rotation because I wanted to try and put the guys who could get some length on either side of him. So instead of making, I actually was probably gonna go with a 4-man starter. I still might, depending on how dumpster fire my rotation is, might go back to that. But I'm just not gonna have depth in the bullpen until I might around June as I get some starters back. But we'll see. That's the big thing. Are we going to play defense? Yes. Are we going to need to play defense? Unfortunately, yes. Because I think some of those guys are just going to get hammered. I mean, my starting rotation right now, I mean, I'm going to have Robbie Ray out for a little bit too. So, I mean, that's, not that he's a high strikeout guy, but when he gets hit, he gets hit. My rotation after that is pretty much hot garbage. So, I mean, it's going to be, but I think eventually I'm going to have the Max Myers, the Cal Quantrills, the Adrian Morahones coming around, the Alex Reyes eventually when the Cardinals decide to make him a starter in a season or 2. But he's lights out the back end right now.
He's going under.
Nah.
He's under the knife.
Who? Morahones. Yeah.
Adrian Morahones.
Yeah, he's under the knife, but he'll come back. He'll come back strong. I think I'm not worried about him. I think he's one of those. And I mean, if my prospects, if the DL Halls of the world start pitching well, if what's his name, Scooball starts pitching well, he's getting a shot. But unfortunately, he's on a team that is, again, they're speaking of dumpster fires. There's Detroit for you. So he's gonna get hit around, and he's gonna I really think take Tarek Scooball for an example here. I think his major league numbers are going to look pretty shoddy on the surface because his ERA is probably going to be inflated and his innings pitched will be down. But I think a lot of that's you're going to look at the defense that's behind him and go, well, half of those balls should have been caught. I really do. I think the Tigers defense is just going to be. I think the Tigers defense has a chance to be historically bad. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. I think the Tigers defense has a legitimate shot of being historically bad. Like 5 errors a game, bad.
Favorite Torres was all over the field for them.
They don't have 9 Gleyber Torreses, though, so that's going to be. The problem is they've got a bunch of hosses. They got a bunch of immobile tight ends in every freaking position.
All right. On to the second question. Yeah. We've got less of a BARB related one. If you were an MLB player, who would you want maybe to model your game after, or who would you say plays the similar way as the way you do?
So this is actually an easy one for me because I'm a huge softball player, and I've always, and even when I played baseball, I modeled my game after really two guys. And no, though they're both retired, I'd have to think about like current comps, but I can tell you who I have modeled my game after. Because when you grow up as a left-handed player who doesn't get a lot of shots at positions that are fun, you get stuck at one particular corner infield spot and one particular corner outfield spot. Basically, if you're left-handed, unless you're fast, which I was not as a child, you basically grow up idolizing left-handed first baseman. And of course, in my era, the first baseman to idolize was the Thrill, Will Clark. I mean, I was a left-hander like him. He had that sweet swing. He was to me the model of like a left-hander's consistency in a swing. I mean, the dude could rake. It's a little unfortunate. I think, by the way, worst decision the San Francisco Giants ever made, other than possibly not starting Kirk Reeder in Game 7 of the 2002 World Series, that they let Will Clark walk and sign with the Rangers. They chose the wrong horse. They gave the money to Williams. I don't even remember who they gave the money to, but they chose not to pay Clark. And it's like, wait a minute, a guy who was a rock at first base for you, who was a 300 hitter, who was going to hit in that era 30 bombs was a good season, 100 RBIs. Guy who was going to be an anchor for your offense for years to come, had some great seasons with the Rangers, had a couple good seasons with the Orioles, finished out his career real strong with the Cardinals, replacing an injured McGuire after the Orioles traded him at the deadline. But I'm actually really sad that Clark never, I wanted him to re-sign for one more season with the Cardinals, even though he wouldn't have seen a lot of playing time behind McGuire. I think he would have seen a lot of pinch hit appearances and a lot of platoon appearances. And I think he would have been, I think that he could have got to the top of the mountain, but that's again, a guy who never won a World Series. I mean, he had the shot in the Bay Bridge series, but stupid earthquake. I blame the earthquake. That's really what it was. Yeah, he is one guy I modeled my game after. Then later in my career, and we'll all be shocked that it's another Cardinal alum that I'm going to pick here, and Angels alum. But as I became a softball player, I realized I was quicker than people thought and could play the outfield. Jimmy Edmonds. I mean, Jimmy Edmonds was, to me, he's again the definition of like a flat out player. He did not take a play off. That man would literally run through walls to make a catch, and a couple times pretty much did. I mean, just thinking about those great catches with, he comes up with just a smile on his face, like, "Yep, I caught that." and he had a great swing too. I mean, he was not a slouch of a hitter. He wasn't a great hitter by any means, but he was a good, solid left-handed hitter. And of course, he was on those Cardinals teams that featured Scott Rowland and some rookie named Albert something. I don't know, Pujols, something like that. But I mean, he was hitting in a solid spot in a solid lineup. And so the dude, like I said, all hustle, all heart. It's actually fun. He's actually one of the color commentators for the Cardinals TV network now. So it's fun. It's fun hearing him talk about the game and talk about these guys. Because he's definitely an old school type player in a lot of ways. He's definitely that old school mentality of, you hit our guy, we're hitting your guy. Let's do it.
All right. Well, that's it from me. So now we'll kick it back to Luis for one last question and then the wrap up.
Yeah, your surprise question, man, it's almost kind of got me thinking. If I was gonna go a different route, but I think we spoke earlier on some of this. So I had two questions for you.
Right.
The one I want to, it's gonna be out of the last decade. So to the World Series matchup that you've seen that does not involve the Cardinals, the best, whether it went 4 games or 6 games, 7 games, but from 2000 to 2010 to 2020.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Not including Cardinals.
Not including my Cardinals.
No.
So I can't count 11 and 11 there. But oh, man, that's a tough one. I would probably say, as much as it pains me to say this, Andrew's going to be smiling somewhere. Chris probably too. That when like, what was it, 2010 when I think that was the Giants' first one.
Yeah, their first one, 2010.
Yeah, 2010 was their first one, and they won it in 12 because Cardinals broke them up in 11, and then 12 and 14. Yeah, they got the even year miracles. But the 2010 one, just seeing them kind of get that monkey off their backs, especially after the pain that was the 2002 series and Dusty Baker's poor decisions as manager. Just, who starts Russ Ortiz over Kirk Reeder in that situation? Seriously. I'm never going to not say that. It's still, to me, a head scratcher to end all head scratchers. But yeah, the 2010 series, and those Giants teams were sneaky good. You looked at them and went, it's all a bunch of 250 hitters who, what are they doing? They play serviceable defense, except for Crawford because he's lights out, and Belt, he's lights out. And so they play strong defense at one. Traditionally, you need a strong position there, but do you need a strong first baseman? And in that case, the answer was yes, because Pablo Sandoval, he was basically Wild Thing from third base. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen Belt save a Sandoval throw. Jeez. The dude was Ricky Vaughn from third base. But that team was actually pretty fun to watch, I will admit. That I will give them that, because they could do a lot of things, and they didn't do any one thing great. They just did everything well.
Mm-hmm. I hated every second of that run.
Oh, yeah.
All 3 years, and I had to watch all three championships with Chris. But I'll tell you what, they were fun games to watch for sure.
Yeah, that was a fun team. That was a team that had some. They were, the saying now in baseball being "let the kids play." I think they were kind of into that mode before this was really a thing. And I'm really liking the fact now that we're seeing a lot of guys embrace that "let the kids play" mentality, and not being offended by a bat flip anymore. I mean, actually, the guy who had, I'm going to give it to him. The guy who had the greatest quote on this was just a few nights ago after he got taken deep twice by Tatis, was Trevor Bauer. He said, yeah, the guy hit a home run off me. He should celebrate. But I'm going to, if I strike him out in a big situation, I'm going to give it to him too. So, I mean, it's great that he's a pitcher that has that mentality. It's not going to be like, well, he had two home runs off me, so he's wearing the next one. Tatis gave it right, the same thing that Bauer was doing in spring training right back to him. So he's like, all right, game on. That's what I want to see more of in the game right now. It's just, guys going, all right, you got me this time, I'm getting you next time. And I'm not going to beam you. I'm just going to bring my best pitches and get you.
Very, very true, man. Very true. It's funny. So I'll leave that question up there for everybody also to answer on the comments there on the channel. Wants to send you the link on there, but I'm sure Andrew's gonna be happy to hear your answer.
Oh yeah,
I know for Anthony, I'm pretty sure the best World Series for him this last, that go around, because last year didn't, stood 2020. I'm not sure, but I think it was probably the loss versus the Astros and the loss versus the Red Sox. Those were good series.
Dude,
I'll
tell you what.
They're painful, but they were good series, and all trash cans aside, they were impressive.
I'll tell you what, man. That 2017 series was probably the best collection of games that I had ever seen, and it's just that was just an unreal time. At the time, I was mad that we lost, but when you lose to a team that was that good, when you lose in games that were just that good, you're just thankful to see great baseball, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I agree. Yeah, the 16 series is up there with me too, but it's just for nostalgia's sake, I got to go with the Giants win. But
I get you.
But I mean, look at it this way too: the Dodgers are right now the class of baseball. They are the best team in baseball. Granted, give it about 5 years, and they're going to be hurting for that because they paid a lot of money to be good now.
Yeah,
and you got a lot of contracts coming due in the next couple of years that guys are probably going to want to pay. Turner, you can probably let walk at this point because you've got enough depth in the system. But Seager, Bellinger, I don't see how you don't pay those guys.
Bueller, Urias, everybody, man, everybody's getting paid.
Yep. The brilliant move they did make was the way they structured the Bauer deal. With the opt-outs, that's one of the few times I will say it's a high money deal that's a win-win on both sides.
Yeah.
Bauer can get out and go somewhere else, and the Dodgers aren't locked in for forever. It's not, unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it, it's not the Albert Pujols deal. The Angels are probably right about this point regretting a little bit. They paid the man.
Yeah.
but they're still paying the man. And granted, he's pretty much producing at about league average right now, but he's not the guy they signed.
Not at all.
Unfortunately, I love the guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm never going to knock Pujols. He brought many, many great moments in Cardinal history. But there was a commercial when Pujols was still a Cardinal. I don't know if you guys remember it, but there was a commercial that basically said, some people, your grandfather said he saw Babe Ruth hit home runs. Your dad said he saw Ripken be an Iron Man. You could say you saw Albert do it all. And it was really true back then. And that's what he was just like. There was nothing the guy couldn't do.
So he collected for doing it all. So
yeah, I mean, granted, he was going to get paid. Just that was back in a spot where the Cardinals looked at it and went, well, we can't afford you because we just paid Matt Holliday, and we paid Matt Holliday to appease you. That's really what it was. I mean, we got Holliday and paid him big to have someone to back up Pujols, and we just weren't in a position to give that $200 million 10-year deal.
That's the new norm, though. That's the new norm.
It's stupid when you do it for corner infielders.
Yeah.
Sorry. The only reason I will say the only deal I've liked that's been big like that lately is the Tatis deal. Just because you're paying a middle infielder who is extremely athletic and extremely young. So you've locked him up for pretty much most of his career, including what will be some very prime years in there. And hey, he's a middle infielder. So if he loses athleticism, he can move to first or move to third or move to second. You can run him down the progression there. Put him in a corner outfield spot. Not, hey, he's a first baseman. Where do we put him? Do we get a DH available?
Let's just hope the Padres don't treat him like Raul Mondesi and act like he's not injured. So
yeah, well,
I think I told Anthony I'm waiting for
that
to get popped PED tests all over.
Not in this day and age. In this day and age, you're not going to see that. There's the teams, especially when they make an investment like that, they look at it as an investment. They're not going to risk their $200-300 million investment because he needs to play 3 more games than he would have.
Let's hope you're right. Coleman, appreciate your time. Appreciate your answers. Anthony, any last words there?
That's it for me.
Cool. Any message you want to send out, Jeff?
Be gentle. We're coming for that first round draft pick. Creepers are coming for that number 1 overall pick. This is a tank here for us.
Undress them slowly.
Right. Use lube.
Be gentle.
All right, fellas. Till next time. Take care. We'll be in touch.